What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I think this is the first show we did in 2 weeks. We back. We in the house. Shout out to you, Miss Phoenix, for the. Oh yeah, they tripping. Oh nah. Oh nah. We ain't doing that. Shout out to you, Miss Phoenix 91, for the ties. I gifted memberships to a couple of folks out there. D, they talking about 10%. 10% D. We ain't doing that. 10%. 10% APR D. We ain't doing that. We ain't doing that. Ain't doing it. They smoking. Nah, son. Mm-mm. Ain't gonna be able to do that. Nah, son. Welcome back. It's funny. Last night we were talking about assets, appreciation, so forth and so on, right? And so this morning, I've been following along with not too heavily, but I see it. The interview with Amanda Seals and Shannon Sharp, right? And I asked this question. I asked this question to you all. I said, because all I hear is, oh man, she's educated, but she's annoying. She thinks she's a know-it-all, blah 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 blah. Or she comes off as masculine, this, that, and other. And what cracks me up is the generation of Gen Xers always come off as masculine or whatnot. But I mean, whatever. That's just a different time, right? I have a lot of theories around what femininity and masculinity has become. Um, I I have my own thoughts on it, on just the landscape in general, but that's beside the point. So one of the things I asked Dee was, um, one of the things I asked Dee was, and this is a shallow point, but I believe it's true. I think people treat you based upon their attractiveness to you. When I say that, meaning if if Amanda Seals didn't look how she looked, and it was somebody that in general most people find unattractive, and she was saying the same things, I think the rhetoric will be much. I think the rhetoric will be harsher, not much harsher, but harsher. And I'm saying it from the standpoint of, let's bring it to the equation. Um, I forget her last name, but Leslie off of Saturday Night Live. Most men dog her out when online it was like she's masculine, she's loud, she's dark skinned, she looked like a man, blah 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 blah. So they go down that route with her, right? But let's peel back the layers. She on Saturday Night Live and you not. She on Saturday Night Live and you not. She's been able to be in comedy and make it to places that and get indoors where other people have been trying for decades to get in. So I think a lot of times in these conversations, like with like one person had made a comment about they can sit up there and watch Cat Williams for 3 hours, but they can't watch Amanda Seals for 3 hours. My response was, you can sit up and watch a man with a perm that looked like your drunk uncle for 3 hours, but you can't sit and watch and listen to what her side of the story is for 3 hours, and you don't even know the person. Like a lot of the conversations that I had online, just to me, just in my own thought process, is based upon how that person views you, and if you had to walk outside. For example, women, women will, and it happens. Women will not talk to other women because they feel like that other woman is not attractive, or that other woman can't be in their circle because she ain't attractive enough to be in their circle. So they'll exile her from that, right? Or or people will box a person in because of the way, because of their, and let's be clear, women are attracted to women in a sense of style, dress, and how she looks. And no one ever wants to talk about this, right? Nobody ever wants to talk about this, right? So there are women, I'm not gonna say all, there are women out there would look at another woman and be like, oh, she not attractive. And so I refuse to be or allow her in my circle because she ain't attractive enough. I don't know. I don't know if you all have experienced that. I've seen it. I've heard women say it before. Now, I've asked this question of men because men act like all men are attractive. And I asked this question: do, in your circle of fellas, do you know if the guy is perceived as the cute guy or he the ugly guy? Let's be real. I know we're going there today, right? And so I've asked men, do you know that your boy that you hanging out with is ugly? Like, do you know that? And men be like, the men that are comfortable with themselves be like, yeah, everybody know he ugly. Everybody know he ugly, right? They was like, but he a good, but here to follow up, but he a good dude though. But he a good dude. He got it together, but he a good dude though. He's solid. D, you funny talking about he a mud duck. Right? Right? And so when it comes down to a lot of these conversations, and I just sit back and I watch them online, I think a lot of the conversations and the mad rants are really based on the attractiveness that those people have to each other. Not saying that they're going to date or anything of that nature, but it's just an attractiveness, like, oh, I could have this conversation with you, or me having this conversation with you, I think we like on the same level, this, that, and other. Because I never, no one, no, across all of social media, from what I have seen, I haven't heard not one person talk about Amanda Seals' looks. But if the shoe was on the other foot and it was Leslie and she was talking, those conversations would be really, really, really different. I'm just saying. Now, let's take it one step further. I have a friend of mine, and she's been on the show, and we talked about this. And I have other friends too, and we talked about this. When it comes to like interviews or getting funding for a project, I was like, do you think that people go based upon how attractive they are to you? And that across the board, they all have said yes. They all have said yes. So, what does that say to you, right? Right? What does that say to you? Like, and the reason why I brought this up because I can tell how people treat other people based upon how they interact with each other, how they talk to each other. And it doesn't have to be from a standpoint of how did you get here education wise or if you're qualified or whatever. It's really based upon, in some instances, how did you get here, because there's no way you could be here. And that whole thing could be attractiveness. It could be attractiveness and education. It could just be the fact that you're a woman or a person of color. It could be that you're a man. It could be a number of things, right? It could be a number of things, right? And so it was just my random thoughts of what I thought about this morning when I was just looking across like the landscape. Like, we're often told in a lot of spaces, like, oh, you overlook the nerd guy, or whatnot. But no one ever want to talk about the nerd woman that get overlooked. No one ever wants to talk about the nerdy woman that gets overlooked, because the nerdy woman is probably not, dressing up however, that whatever tight clothes or whatever the case may be that attracts that guy or those men, right? The nerdy woman, she may be in a pair of slacks or a suit, or whatever the case may be for her, for that woman. But again, it goes back to my point of no one ever, and I said this before and I say it all the time. I have never met a man that said, "Oh, you're gonna be a good friend when we meet." Like, a man don't meet you. I'm in my entire life, I've never met a man that said, "You look like you're gonna be a good friend." The conversation starts with attractiveness, and while that conversation is happening, he either gets friend zoned or whatnot. But I've never met a guy that looked at a woman, and over time he may say, I have female friends, but I've never met a guy that said, "Oh, I met this cool chick tonight, and she sounded like she gonna be a good friend." No, I met this chick tonight, and over time you become friends. But I never met a guy that was like, "I met this chick tonight, man. I know me and her gonna be good friends and stuff like that. I want to introduce you to such and such and such and such." Like, and I ain't talking about business. I'm talking just strictly friendship. I've never met a guy that like that. And fellas, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. Now, you may meet a woman through a mutual friend, and you all become friends because of that person. But I've never met a guy while I'm at a conference or at a bar or at the grocery store, and he's like, "Petcha by golly, wow, you'll be a good friend for me." Yeah, I've never had that happen in my life. Just saying. Just saying. Right? So when I look at the whole situation, friend, where have you been? Oh, in the situation with Amanda Seals and uh the conversation and stuff like that, it's just funny to me how people reacted to the conversation, because nobody went off on a tangent and was like, "Oh, she's she's not attractive. It was just like, oh, she masculine, this, that, and other. But I'm like, have you met women from New York and Philly? Have you met some of those women? I don't know, right? Whatever. Lynn, you said there's tons of research, pretty privilege, halo effect, better outcome and opportunity. Oh yeah, oh yeah. How people are attracted to you in a interview, really stands out, right? And I know this for a fact because I've experimented with it. I know this for a fact, right? How someone physically perceives you can also determine what your offer letter is like. For example, your the way you wear your hair, your weight, um, how you flow in the interview, like how you talk. Sometimes even your dialect when you're talking, right? Your accent, right, could be a turnoff for someone in an interview. And it's so crazy because you may not even realize that it's happening when you're in the interview, but it does happen. It does, right? And start talking to start talking to some women. Start talking to some women. I don't know if women who interview men do that. I mean, I know I don't. I just would like. I hope he's smart. I hope whatever he got on his resume, he actually do it right. So I don't know. That's just my thoughts. That's just my mad rant. D was talking about it this morning. Another big thing. Like if you look, like we say pretty privilege, right? But when a man is not attractive, right? Let's be real. He has to compensate somewhere. It's just the facts of it, right? Not everybody was born attractive to the masses. You may get a few people that find you attractive. Now, this is Tameika's own personal experience. My own personal experience. I have found men who, as across the board, a status across the board, that a lot of people may not have found attractive. I have found, and it's a 50-50 shot. Some are mean and some are nice. Now, let's add into another layer of that. If he has money or not. Is he good with his money or not? The ones that's not good with their money and they mean, they be the worst ones. Ones that are good with their money, but he may not be too easy on the eyes. You might be like, you may hit him with the Missy Elliott at the couple of more drinks. And I look through this glass real good. You might be attractive, right? Like, I mean, I know I'm not the only one out here that had these random thoughts or have seen people like this. But again, those are my just personal uh experiences that I have had. My other personal experience that I have had, and I talk about this often, is I call them the 100,000 heirs. The 100,000 heirs. The men and the women who reached $100,000. No money, ugly. That's too many struggle. Struggle bus. All right. um, what I have, the 100,000 heirs. All right. So what do you mean by the 100,000 heirs? The 100,000 heirs are those that have made it to $100,000. They may have made it to like 150, 170, somewhere in there. The amount of arrogance that gets displayed at that point, I was always overwhelmed with. And the most overwhelming was in DC, bar none. Um, I don't when I go to Atlanta, I don't hang out with the folks like that. When I go home, I go home. I see my peoples. I stop here and there, and then I'm out. I don't need to be on the scene. Been there, done that. Yeah, arrogance for 100K. Why? I don't know. But I call them the $100,000 heirs, right? And the amount of arrogance that people have at that point cracks me up. So much so, I'll give you an example. When I was in DC. So when I was in DC, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna this next apartment. I don't want to be in an apartment where I got to dig myself out of the snow. I want to make sure I get an apartment where they got like a heated driveway. They gonna do all the shoveling. My car gonna be in a garage. I don't want to deal with none of that, right? And I don't want an apartment where somebody else had already lived in. I did a search for brand new apartments. I want to be I want to be in something new, something my new space, right? That was my ode to myself. Like, if I'm gonna go get something nice, I'm gonna go get something nice. So, um, I went and got filled out paperwork, got approved, this, that, and other. Woo, woo. I'm at the hair salon. I'm at the hair salon, and everybody's sitting around talking like what they're doing this weekend, what's their plan. I was like, oh, I'm moving, this, that, and other, this, that, and other. So one of the chicks in the shop, she was sitting in the chair, and she's like, "Oh, where you moving to?" I said, "Oh, I'm moving up to Tyson's Corner. These apartments up there." Oh, yeah, me and my homegirl, me and my best friend went up there, and we was trying to get an apartment up there. And she was like, she looked at me. She was like, "How could you get an apartment up there?" And we both went up there with our dual incomes, and couldn't get into an apartment. She was like, "What? Like, how could you afford something like that?" And as she was doing this in my head, I was like, "Excuse the excuse the language." I'm like, "Is this bitch real? Like, what the? Is this bitch real?" Like, and I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" I was like, "I didn't have no problem." I was like, "I could have moved in that day. Like, it wasn't like, what problem did y'all have? Like, you got bad credit or something, or you got a lot of debt? What's going on?" She was like, she was like, "Well, like, I make 115." And I was like, "Well, I make more than that." I don't know. I don't have no problems. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And so from that point on, I was like, "Ooh, I got to stay out of the shop," because the shop was like my little hangout spot. I'm like, "I gotta stay out of the shop." I was like, "Cause y'all some haters." And I was like, "Is this the $100,000 air syndrome?" And then everybody, like, I would meet different people, and I would like, "Man, what is this about?" Like, they were like, "Oh, I work for such and such, and I make 120." And I'd be like, "Okay, that's nice. That's cool. That's what's up." Like, yeah, right. So I have been in the spaces where I'm like, people lead with, and it's men and women that lead with this in DC. It's just a norm in DC. That's the lead, right? It's so normal. It happens so often that people think it's normal. Like, what do you do for a living? What do you work at? Oh, what contract are you on? Blah 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 blah. Oh, do. Right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You got your clearance. Okay. Cool. 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 Like, it's just one of them things. It just rattles off like that. But I say all that to say is, people also treat you again based on your attractiveness, like how she thought in her head was I she had an idea, a preconceived notion of what she thought I was worth, or what she thought I was, or what I could obtain based upon what comparing me to her. And it was two of y'all that went up there with two incomes, and y'all didn't still didn't get it, right? So what I have always known about life and people in general is people will prejudge you regardless of whatever. But you have to be willing to stand your ground and be willing to make sure that someone treats you the way you want to be treated. Even when it comes to investing in finances, people make assumptions about who you are. And let's be clear, um black people spend the most, right? But at the same token, when you enter into a store, the assumption is often is you don't have any money. So people will treat you just based on that. That's just a fact. They'll treat you based upon whatever these reports and stuff that you see come out. You keep thinking that don't nobody read those reports. People read those reports. Marketers, advertisers, everyone reads those reports. So what is deemed in those reports is trust me, people will treat you accordingly. But you have to combat that. Down to earth, you're welcome. DC talk contract 100K and where you live and your whip. Yeah, I live in PG County. I live in the I do this and that. I'm like, okay, well that's nice. I live in Ashburn. Oh, okay. You in Virginia. Okay. Right. So I don't know. It's just things that I have experienced and what I see across the landscape, and it's just very interesting to me. All right, let's get into today's show. Last night, I talked about IRAs and so forth and so on. But let me pull up my notes. I have a note here. Let me see if I can pull it up. Because on one Thursday, I talked about. Let me see. Well, let me get it. Mm, yeah, right here. Let's start here. Let me see. Can I blow it up? Uh-oh. Zero. I don't think I can blow this up. So what I'll do is I'll cut and paste this. I'll put it in a Word doc because it's not giving the sizing that I want. Okay. All right. So you're a W-2 person, right? And you want to invest, right? You want to invest, you want to become that millionaire, right? That's what you want. D, you probably gonna have to drop me down. Hold on, let me do this. All right. So, all right. So here's what you're able to do right now as a W-2 person, right? So you got a W-2 job, right? You got one W-2 job. You can max out your 401k at 23K. You can max out your HSA at what's going on at at 4150. You can max out your RA at 7K a year, but those contributions, right? Let's back up here for a second. Um, let's say you were making I don't know 190K. All right, say you're making 190K, right? So let's say you're making 190K. You could put 23K into your 401K, max that out. You can put 4150 into your HSA, max that out. And then you could put 7K into your IRA after tax. This is after tax. But here's the kick. If you make over the 73K, which in this case this 90K, it's not going to count towards reducing your taxable income. So it's just you putting money into an IRA. Um Donations, you can donate to your own nonprofit. You could do property, you could buy property, whether it's land or whether it's land or houses or duplexes or whatnot, right? And then you can do tax loss harvesting, right? Now the standard deduction, I think, is what, 13,000, 15,000, somewhere in there. Let me double verify. I think it's 13,850 or something like that. 13,850. Yeah. And for heads of household was 20,800. All right. So, all right. So your biggest gain for the reducing your taxable income is probably going to be in the donations, the property, and the tax loss harvesting. These you should just do automatically right here. This has no gain other than you putting seven taxable gain. Be clear, there's no gain here, right? Other than you putting in 7K into an IRA, and maybe you want to do some option trading or something like that in there. Your biggest your biggest gain for reducing your taxes is going to be property donations and tax loss harvesting, right? So this is something I talked about on a Thursday night. I took notes on this. The annual deduction limit for gifts to public charities, including donor advised funds, is up to 30% of the adjusted gross income for donations of non-cash assets held longer than 1 year, and up to 60 for AGI for donations of cash. And I got the rules right here, right? Nonprofit rules, right? So this right here, most people are probably W-2, right? So you're W-2 on one job, maybe you got a side hustle, and now you hop down here into this LLC, right? So remember, with your LLC and you're doing 1099 work or self-employment, you got self-employment taxes, you got Medicare and Social Security. You could essentially set yourself up where you pay yourself a W-2 salary out of the company, right? Let the company do things by getting insurance and so forth and so on, right? The other option, pay as a W-2, where you can set up and do a Roth and a 401K and free tax and so forth. I mean, I went on talking about this. I'm not going to go into this part right here today, this LLC side, right? But I want to talk about this side right here, because you could also have a Roth IRA, but this is based on income, And you could have a Roth IRA set up that you close an account with your old employer and you have some IRA funds there. You can roll that into a Roth IRA and just contribute on the IRA side, but I mean on the Roth side, put it into the Roth side. But now you can start getting into backdoor Roth IRAs. All right, so let's talk about it. Backdoor Roth IRAs, right? Advantages and tax implications explained. So I have that one and I have a video, right? So let's talk about it. Y'all with me so far? Put a one in the chat. Because a lot of you don't realize the tax advantages that you gain from your 401k. You don't realize the tax advantages you gain from your HSA, and you don't realize the tax advantages that you have in your backdoor Roth, not your backdoor Roth IRA, but your IRA that you set up outside. So here's another thing to also think about too, right? MB, I haven't forgot about you. And here's another thing to think about too, because I went through this, right? Personally, just personally, and let's do some math here. Let's do it on here. All right. I think the sweet spot for income, W-2 income, is right about 300 to 400,000, where you could manage the taxes on it. Hear me out. I think I really do think after about, I think after about, once you get up to 500, you got to start looking for so many different ways to offset those taxes. Okay, so remember I talked about your HSA and your 401k, right? So that's 23 and 4150, right? So we're gonna do 23,000 plus 4150, right? And so that's 27,150 pre-tax right there, right? And remember, you can't you can in your 401k, your Roth 401k, you can donate to your Roth side and you can donate to your traditional side. But the combination of the two is going to be 23,000. All right, so that's 21,750. So let's go 300,000 minus 27,150. So now that brings your taxes down to 272,000. All right, so for 2023, the tax bracket for, and pull it up, puts you still in the 35% tax bracket for single filers. So you need to go below 231,000. That was in 2023, right? So you still got another roughly 39,000, 40,000 that you got to figure out how to bring down your taxable income, because you want to drop down as much as you can, right? So this goes back to, and let me show you what I'm looking at, right? This is for 2023, right? Last year, right? This 300 falls into here. That 272 still falls into here. You need to get below this 231 so you can come down to here. You really want to get down to here. If you can get down to 24, much better. But the jump down these many tax brackets is hard, right? So what helps you get down those tax brackets here are these donations and this property and this tax loss harvesting, right? This is what gets you to that, to bring this down. So investing helps bring down your taxable income. But when I say tax loss harvesting, do you know what I mean? Let's look it up. Investopedia has a good example. All right, so here, tax loss harvesting is a strategy investors can use to reduce capital gain taxes owed for selling profitable investments, right? A tax loss harvesting strategy involves selling an asset or security at a net loss, right? Are y'all with me so far? Right? So that's why I put it on the list here, because you got more control here. Now, you're saying, Tameika, look, I don't have that much money to be investing in here, right? Okay, I hear you, but we're gonna have to figure this out because we need to get this down. If you're not gonna do tax loss harvesting, you're gonna have to buy some property, right? If you ain't gonna do that, you need to do a donation. You got to look at it this way: either you're gonna pay the government, or you're gonna even out, or they're gonna owe you. Either or. So which one? I don't want to owe. So I'm always looking for ways where I don't have to owe. And here's what the ways that on the W-2 that I came up with. And I've asked different people, and they were like, "Yeah, this it on W-2. Ain't nothing else we can do for you. Yo, your own, buddy. Can you contract? That's the first thing they ask. Can you do a contract? Can you do a 1099 contract? Or if you can do a 1099 contract, we can help you out. No one can help you on W-2. No one cares. No one cares about your W-2 income. All right, but Tupac does. All right. All right, so tax loss harvesting. Let's look at an example. I've done this before. We'll do it again till you all get ingrained in your head. All right, let's go. Let's check out an example. All right, so how does tax loss harvesting work? Tax loss harvesting is also known as a tax loss selling. Most investors use this strategy at the end of the year when they assess the annual performance of their portfolios. Remember last night I talked about having a portfolio. You can have multiple portfolios, but what does your first portfolio, your wealth building portfolio look like? You can have a crypto portfolio, you can have a portfolio of stocks, you can have a portfolio of gold, you can have a portfolio of silver. Right now, I want y'all to focus on having a wealth portfolio that's diversified within that portfolio. And in that portfolio, you can have stocks, you can have REITs, you can have ETFs, you can have real estate, like physical real estate. You can have cars. I talked about cars last night that appreciate. What's the number one car that holds its value over 10 years? Put it in the chat, y'all. Y'all, if you caught the show last night, you know exactly what I'm talking about. All right. So an investment that shows a loss in value can be sold to claim as a credit against the profits. That's right, the forerunner. It was the forerunner, not the Tundra, Jerry. And the 911, right? Against the profits that were realized in other assets. Tax loss harvesting is a tool for reducing overall taxes. A loss in the value of a security could be sold to offset the increase in the price of security B, thus eliminating the capital gains, right? We're trying to eliminate things, right? All right, so let's go and look at an example. Wash sale rule. An example. All right. Assuming an investor has earns an income of $580,000 in 2023. So here goes back to that tax loss harvesting, how it can work when we start talking about higher end incomes. When I say higher end incomes, for me, to me, a higher end income is 3, 4, 500. For someone else, it could be 200 and up. So I'll be nice and just do 200 and up, right? For sake of argument. But this example is showing 580,000, right? The investor marginal tax rate is 37%. So let's go look at this tax bracket again at the 37%, right? Right here. They're trying to show you right here. They at 580. They need to get this down. I don't know about the Hellcat for 10 years. I would get a Porsche and put it in there for 10 years. Keep them, drive it every once in a while, keep them mileage low. Do I have to do mine? So there was a Porsche on the lot. It was black. Beautiful. It was a 911. It wasn't even a S or nothing like that. It had 600 miles on it. The car was still, it was a 21, 22. They just drove it every now and again. And they still wanted 200,000 for that car. I know they're not making them anymore, but mm, I wouldn't go with the Hellcat. I get it. All right, so let's go. Tax loss harvested. So we had 580. All right, so the investor marginal, we saw it was 37 and it's subject to the highest long-term capital gain tax category, right? Where gains are taxed at 20%. Short-term capital gains taxed at the investor's marginal rate. Below are the investor's profile gains and losses and trading activity for the year. So the person had a mutual fund, 250,000 held for 450 days. So the held over a year. Mutual fund B, unrealized gains held for 635 days. And then mutual fund C. Now mutual fund C has only been held 125 days. So there, if he or she sells out of this at 125 days, there's gonna be there'll be some problem. But anyway, unrealized loss. Okay, so trading activity. All right, mutual fund E sold, realized a gain of 200,000. The fund was held for 380 days. And mutual fund F sold and realized a gain of 150,000, but was only held for 150 days. The tax owed from these sales is tax without harvesting, right? Both of these were 380 days for this one at 20%, right? And then this one right here was 150,000 at 37%. Why was this one held to the 37%? If you scroll back up, the investor marginal income tax rate is 37% and is subject to the highest long-term capital gains tax category where the gains are taxed at 20%. So they didn't hold this for a year. So they got hit with the 37% because they wasn't held for that year. So look at this. So they got hit with the 37% because it was only held for 150 days. This was held for the over the 1 year. So it got hit with the 20%. But now this person has tax without harvesting 95,500, right? If the investor harvested losses by selling mutual funds B and C, let's go up to B and C, right? Which are held here, B and C 250 and 130. They should be at 20%. Let's double verify. So mutual funds B and C would help offset the gains, and the tax owed would be tax with harvesting, the 200,000 minus the 130 times 20%, and then the 150 minus the 100 at the 37% comes out to 32,500, right? You see how they got that number? All right, so 200,000, boom, and then they went up there to the 130, right here for B held over that time at 20%. But remember this other one, which ones are we selling? B and C? C is not held for 365 days. So the C is going to go with this 150 here. So that 150 minus the 100 brought the tax down from 95,000 to 32,000, right? The power of time is what we're trying to show here. Holding on, right? So that tax loss harvesting went from 95,000, right, to 32,000. That's more reasonable. Still a lot of money. Still a lot of money. 32,000 still a lot. All right. Tax loss harvesting takes advantage of the fact that the capital losses can be used to offset the capital gains. An investor can bank capital losses from unprofitable investments to pay fewer capital gains on profitable loss investments sold during the year. This strategy includes using the proceeds of selling unprofitable investments to buy similar investments that preserve the portfolio's overall balance, right? So this goes back to what I was saying here. Your tax loss harvesting can help reduce some of your pain, right? So investing and knowing what to invest in, being strategic about your investments is going to help you here. All right. So now let's go and look at this backdoor. All right. So when the backdoor Roth IRA strategy is not a tax dodge, when you transfer the assets of a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA, you owe taxes on any funds, the principal, earnings, and the appreciation that have not been taxed previously. So, what you generally happens with the backdoor Roth IRA is, and goes into those that have a lot of money in their 401k that's still sitting out there that's going to be taxed when you start to withdraw down. But what a lot of people like to do is, I want to realize I want to have my money already taxed, but I don't want to tax $2 million. It's just sitting in a 401k and then roll it over to do a conversion over to a Roth. And then I get hit with a big tax burden. So people try to stagger that tax burden over time, right? Over time, right? By moving some money from your 401k to an IRA or a Roth IRA. But then this is backdoor Roth IRA, right? Where you could contribute up to 69,000 if you're a 1099 as an employer and employee to this particular I guess you say tax deferred or tax advantage account. So let's go. All right. So if the IRA was solely funded with tax deductible contributions, then the entire value of the transfer asset is taxed. As with any Roth IRA, you should owe no further taxes when you make withdrawals. So on the Roth side, right? On the Roth IRA side, I put money in, it's already taxed. On the traditional side, I put money in, it's pre-taxed. It's no tax on it. But if I go to take it out, it's going to get taxed. So a lot of people are like, how can I be tax free? How can I be tax free? All right, so let's go. I'm not going to read those because that's going to ruin the strategy here. All right. A Roth IRA allows taxpayers to set aside a few $1,000s from their annual earnings in a retirement account, savings account. The contributed money is after tax dollars, meaning the funds are earning that have been the funds are earnings that have been taxed in the year they were contributed to the Roth IRA, right? Roth IRA versus traditional. A Roth IRA differs from traditional. The traditional IRA gives the earner an immediate tax break because they can take a tax deduction for their contributions in the year they're made, and no taxes are due until that money is withdrawn. But remember, back over here on this document, you can have an IRA and max it out, but you don't reduce your taxable income if you make over 73,000. So it don't really help you. It don't help your taxable income. Let me say it that way. It can help you with your contributions. I mean, with you buying stock or whatever, but it don't help you with your taxable income if you make over the 73K. All right. So it says here, the investor. Oh no, I'm not on the right one. That's tax loss harvest. It's the wrong one. Right here. All right. So no tax, blah blah. When withdrawals are made, usually after retirement, the account holder will owe taxes on both dollars invested and their earnings. So in your 401k, you getting paid. You got to pay on the taxes on the dollars invested and the earnings. So that's why people like to try to get to the Roth side. All right. The problem for high income taxpayers is that individuals who earn above a certain amount are allowed to open a fund to open or fund Roth IRAs. Right. I told you there's a limit on it. Right. So it goes like this. In 2023, it was between 138,000 to 153 for single filers, and 218 to 228 for joint filers. If you were in 2024, if you made between 146 to 161 for single filers and between 230 to 240 for married couples. Now just think, I'm telling y'all to aim for 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, and they're showing here between married couples, right? So imagine y'all had a household where each person in the household was making 200, another person was making 300. You got a $500,000 household. Say y'all just live off of one of those incomes and stack the rest. Now, ladies and gents, ladies, do not deny yourself in a marriage to say, hey, I'm going to not contribute to my 401k. I'm going to put all my money into his 401k. Don't do that. Fellas, don't say, I'm going to contribute all my money to her 401k. Both of y'all need to have a 401k because you're trying to reduce your taxable income, right? So let's reduce that. Two, when 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 shit hits the fan, you've been contributing all over here to this 401k. And in a marriage, you only get the gains, not what it started out with beforehand, right? I'm just telling you. We talked about this on Foolish Finance Friday. I'm just warning you. It's okay to have two 401ks. It's all right. All right. Traditional IRAs don't have income ceilings for participation. And since 2010, the IRS hasn't had income limits that restrict who can convert traditional IRAs to Roth IRAs. As a result, the Backdoor Roth IRA has become a tax planning opportunity for higher income taxpayers who ordinarily couldn't contribute to a Roth IRA. Right? So let's talk about it. The way the Backdoor Roth IRA works, IRA's work has changed over the years, although IRA funds that are transferred to Roth IRAs in pre-2018 conversions could be recategorized as traditional IRAs contributions before 2018, right? So let's get to it on how it works. All right. So how can you create a backdoor Roth IRA? One way is contribute money to an existing traditional IRA and then roll over the funds to a Roth IRA, right? or you can roll over existing traditional IRA money to a Roth as much as you want at one time, even if it's more than an annual contribution limit. You can convert your entire traditional IRA to a Roth IRA. If your company 401k plan allows conversions, you can roll over 401k account, roll over your 401k account to a Roth IRA. Now, I talked about this and I was asking my guy yesterday about the taking part of your Roth in your employee owned stock account right now. Well, you're an employee right now in the company and taking your Roth side of your 401k and rolling it over into your Roth IRA or your traditional IRA, you can do that. However, it has to be allowed within the plan that is set up by the employer. So you have to ask if that is possible because they could treat it as a withdrawal. So you need to make sure they don't treat it as a withdrawal, but as a conversion. And what's the difference? One withdrawal, you get taxed. Conversion, you're just rolling over without the tax penalty. Chief Trucker Lot, you said is there a wait time after creating traditional before I can roll it over to a Roth IRA? You may have to double verify this, but I think, and don't quote me on this, I think it may be 5 years, but don't quote me on that. Do your own due diligence and ask. A good place to start if you want to know the answer to these questions, which I found helpful, was I just set an account at Charles Schwab, which I've had it for years, but I'm just giving you my scenario. I have an account at Charles Schwab, and any questions that I have, I call them on the phone. In fact, I got a direct connect, and we sit down and we talk about this information. Like, what can I do? Right? I'm always looking for what I can do to help me benefit me W2 wise. And then I have what I can do on a 1099 side. And then I have, well, what can I do in terms of my overall portfolio? And then what can I do in terms of not just my retirement, but my retirement in times. So, retirement in time meaning like, okay, what do I want my lifestyle to be like at my first 5 years of retirement? And what do I want my lifestyle to be like, say, 10 years from there? What does that look like? And how can I ensure that my foundation continues to grow? So if I get 8 million in retirement at 60, I want to continue to have that continue to grow. And what do I want that to look like? Right. So let me double verify something here. All right. So this rule for Roth IRA distribution stipulates that 5 years must pass after the tax year of your first Roth contribution before you withdraw earnings. I knew it was something like that, right? But again, do your own due diligence. It says keep in mind that the 5 year clock begins ticking on January 1st of the year you made your first contribution to the account, right? What is the Roth IRA 5 year rule, right? The rule for our Roth IRA distribution stipulate that 5 years must pass after the tax year of your first Roth IRA contribution before you can withdraw the earnings in a tax-free account. Keep in mind that the 5 year clock begins ticking on the January 1st of the year you made your first contribution. This means even after you made your first contribution on December the 31st of the given year, you you get to count the full year toward the 5 year rule. In fact, the contributions as late as the tax deadline for the year can count. So in other words, if it's April 15th of 2024 and you open up account, say, I guess in December, and you don't make a contribution to January, you still count towards your tax year of 2023. I don't know if y'all ever paid attention to, before you file taxes, they always like you still got time to put into your IRA and have it count for 2023. I don't know if y'all, I mean, for the previous year, right? So next year, come April of 2024, December is not the cutoff date to continue to contribute. You still have up until the April 15th tax year, April 15th of the following year, right? So just keep that in mind, right? All right. What's going on, Peter Investor? All right, so let's get back to the backdoor Roth. All right. So these are the three ways you can create a backdoor Roth IRA. You can contribute money to an existing traditional IRA and then roll those over to a Roth, or you can roll an existing traditional IRA money into a Roth as much as you want at one time, even if it's more than the annual contribution limit. Remember, the annual contribution limit on the Roth, that was what, 7,000 or 7,500. I think it's 7,000. But if you're doing the backdoor, you can go more than what it says because you're doing the backdoor, right? You could convert an entire IRA to a Roth IRA if your company has a 401k. If your company allows 401k plan, 401k plan allows conversions, you can roll over your 401k account to a Roth IRA, right? The custodial bank or the brokerage for your IRA should be able to help you. And this is why I say call Charles Schwab or Fidelity or whoever you're with, right? If you have a managed plan, you can contact the financial services firm that manage it to learn how your plan provides the opportunity. Now, what are the tax implications on the backdoor Roth IRA? Remember that in an IRA transfer or conversion to a Roth IRA, you still need to pay taxes on the money in your traditional IRA that hasn't been taxed. For example, if you contribute 6,000 to your IRA, traditional IRA, a claim deduction for 6,000 on your tax return, and then convert that money to your Roth IRA, you will still you'll owe taxes on the 6,000. How can you see if you have old 4 or old 401k from an old job? There's a website out there where you can go look up all your old 401ks. Let me look it up. Yeah, Meet Beagle. It's called Meet Beagle. They actually help you find your old 401ks. Hold on. Tech Ties. Thank you, Chief Truck a lot. We appreciate you. All right, so Meet Beagle right here. I'm not advertising for them, but you asked. Find your old 401ks, the hidden fees, rollovers, unlock 401ks and IRAs. This is where you can get. You can go and check this out. Peter Investor, appreciate you. Thank you for the $5 super chat, or maybe a super sticker. For the like, I appreciate you. You and also Miss Phoenix as well too. We appreciate all of y'all. Right. So you can go here. Now here's a question, because I had to look this up. I had to look up, and I don't know if y'all realize this. I had to search all my HSAs, because I have probably like 4 HSAs, and I'm combining them all down. Right now, with that being said, my with my HSAs, what I want to know was rolling over my HSAs into one HSA, and how does that plan work, right? So um roll over, and I'm gonna get back to the, because we got a video. And something y'all probably not even thought about. An HSA rollover. An HSA rollover. So this could be an HSA that you open on your own at a financial institution, or one that you get access to through an employer. Right? An HSA rollover, and how does it work? Right? All right. So, how does it work? The ability to carry your funds with you across many jobs and different calendar years makes an HSA a unique way to save. Now, here's the thing. Why do you want to invest in an HSA through the employer, or do you want to just say I deny your HSA and I'll just keep contributing to myself, contributing myself? Now, I think it's a good investment. I think the best investment is when the employer does a match on your HSA. So I've had an employer where I say, "Oh, there's like, how much you putting in?" I say, "I'm gonna put in 200 every month." Okay, every month they're gonna match that 200, or they're gonna match that 150 or whatever. So cool, match me in my HSA, because that helps me reduce how much I donate into my HSA. Right? Remember, I can only go up to 4150 anyway, right? As a single person, not married, so that's different. All right, so here, the ability to carry over your funds with you across many jobs makes an HSA a unique way to save. Now, remember, I've talked about the HSA as you when you turn 70, you don't have to use the HSA as a just for your medical benefits. You can use the HSA for anything. So you can look at this as another investment vehicle for you to invest in. So I have my calculator up here. I kept it up here, so I didn't have to go dig for it. All right, so 4150 after your first year, and of course it increases over time. I got 4150. All right, so I think it's 325 to do that investment. 4150 times, I mean, divided by 12, 345. All right, so we'll go with 346. So it comes out to 346 a month. And I'm just saying, you're gonna do this over the next, I don't know, 20 years. Right? And let's say it gets I don't know, you could probably get a rate of return about 6 or 7%. I'll just go with 6 for now and calculate that annually. All right, so you could get away with in your 401k, and I'm just being generous because it increase. I mean, in your 401k, in your HSA, it increases every year. But I'm just saying you could still have like 166,000 in there, give or take. Right? It could go up to 200,000. So that's just having that on the side. So remember, you don't have to use it for medical for right now. They may change this. You don't have to use it just for medical when you hit 70. So you say, Tameika, oh yeah, prove that to me. Okay, all right, cool. All right. IRS, HSA, let's go here. All right. Let's look at this. What's HSA, qualifying, deductible, other coverage, other health coverage contributions, limit, testing, married people, employer, Medicare, rollovers, blah, blah, blah. Mm-mm-mm. Let me be more specific. After 70. Oh, it may be 65. It might not be 70. Let me see. Once you reach 65, okay, 65. Once you reach 65, money held in your HSA can be withdrawn and used for any reason. It's not 70, it's 65. Um, the only catch up being that you'll pay ordinary income taxes on withdrawals not used for qualified expenses. This means your HSA can essentially function similarly to 401ks and IRAs, right? So it's 65. So let's go. Yeah, we could leave it right there at 20 years, give or take how old you are. You can do the calculation on that. But you could have a roughly give or take 100,000 sitting in your HSA to help you with medical expenses. But like they say, money held in an HSA can be withdrawn and used for any reason. Any reason. The only catch being that you'll pay ordinary income taxes on withdrawals not used for qualified medical expenses. Right? You'll pay income taxes. Right? But there's another pot of money sitting there over time. Right? Now, with your HSAs, um, I know ain't nothing in this one. Hold on. Let me look. I don't know. Have y'all started doing your investing in your HSAs? Let me look. I don't think I can get in, but we're about to find out. Yeah, I figured that didn't work. I figured that didn't work. All right, I'll have to find one. Let me look. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can find. Um, all right, see if they have. Okay, so I got an old one, right? Let me blow this up. I got an old one. All right, so here, Optum is one of them. All right, you can go find HSA accounts other places, but anyway, I wanted to see what they have. So Optum Bank Mutual Fund Investments. So they have what they call Vanguard funds, target date funds, and lifestyle funds, right? So you can go through these and look and see. And here's a list of their mutual funds right here. That's what I was looking for. Is it gonna list it out? Hold on. Do I download something? Hope not. I just want to get a list of their mutual funds. That sucks. They don't have it on here. But anyway, they give you an idea. Anyway, so you can use these mutual funds inside of your HSA to invest inside of there in order to grow the account, right? In order to grow the account. And so I always just look around and say, well, what is the average growth? Or I could say, yeah, yearly growth in an HSA, just in general, what they have found. I just been wanting to see average HSA balance by age. Sure, let's look at that. All right, the average HSA balance by age. It is super huge. I need to be able to see. Let's go here. All right, cool. All right, so by age, they're saying um if you are 43, your average household is about 72,000. your investment balance is 30, 36. If you're 59, you'll be at like 35. I think you can get more than that into your HSA when single or married. But again, this is just having some money sitting there to max out. Because I mean, if you think about it, we can just do the calculator here. If I'm investing 4150 every year, right, and I do this for 30 years, that's 124,000. That's just, so you can be, let me see, let me do it for 20. You could be at 100,000 in this HSA by itself. 83,000. So give or take, let it play the market. So 83 to 100,000. 83 to 100,000. That's just in your HSA. Now, when you hit 65, you may have some medical expenses or something that come up. You can utilize that for your medical expenses. You could also utilize, you may have some insurance, long-term care insurance or something like that you could also use. I'm just trying to show you like multiple ways to set yourself up for when you retire. And you could retire at 50, you could retire at 65, but what does that look like? So let's get back to it. This tax loss, we did Meet Beagle, we did HSA rollover. That was Optum. Did I go off my page? No, my Backdoor. All right, cool. All right. So you'll owe taxes. It says you'll owe taxes whatever the money in the IRA earned between the date when it was contributed to the traditional and when you converted it to a Roth IRA. However, if you make after tax contributions to a traditional IRA, that is contributed funds that are non-deductible and taxable that year, these amounts will not be taxed on the transfer to your Roth IRA, right? Roth IRA income limits for 2023, 153, in 2024, 161, so forth and so on, right? Benefits of the backdoor Roth IRA, aside from getting around the limits, why would taxpayers want to take the extra steps involved in doing a backdoor Roth IRA? There are several good reasons. All right. For one, Roth IRAs don't require RMDs. You're not forced to take minimum distributions out, which means the account balances can create tax deferred growth for as long as the account holder is alive. You can take out as much or as little as you want whenever you want, or leave it all in there for your heirs. Another reason why a backdoor Roth contribution can mean significant tax savings over decades, because Roth IRA contributions, unlike traditional IRA contributions, are not taxable. Right? The main advantage of the backdoor Roth IRA, as with Roth IRAs in general, is that you pay taxes or upfront on your converted pre-tax, and everything after that is tax-free. This tax benefit is great if you think that tax rates will rise in the future, or that your taxable income will be higher in the years after your Roth IRA is established. So the older you get, the more experience you get, the more money you make, the higher your tax bracket goes. So you may want to start doing backdoors earlier, right? But again, remember, when you're taking it out of your 401k, you're also taking out your money actually working in that 401k. But your money should be working in this Roth IRA as well too, right? So you may have better selections in your Roth IRA. And so this is where you got to do your due diligence and so forth, right? So remember, the older you get, the more skills you get, the higher income tax bracket you go when you go to do that conversion. It could cause a large tax event. So if you do it over time, you want to prevent that large tax event, right? All right. So it says now, especially if you plan to withdraw after a distant retirement date. Is backdoor Roth IRA still allowed? Yes, it is. So forth and so on. So now I have a video. So let me pull up my other thing and let's play this video.
Hi, I'm Christine Benz from Morningstar. With the tax deadline fast approaching, many investors are rushing to fund their IRAs. Joining me to discuss the perennially hot topic of backdoor Roth IRAs is tax and IRA expert Ed Slott. Ed, thank you so much for being here.
Well, it's great to be back with you, Christine. Thanks.
It's great to have you here. So I want to discuss backdoor Roth IRAs. It's a perennially hot topic. People wonder whether this is an allowable maneuver. Maybe we can just start by you talking about who should consider it and what a backdoor Roth IRA means.
Well, first, it is allowable. It's legal. The reason these questions come up every year because there were rumblings from Congress. We're going to stop that for years and years. In fact, there was somebody at the IRS that eventually said, no, we're okay with that. We just didn't like the name. It sounded like a workaround. And they actually said that publicly. So, yes, you can absolutely do it. So what is it? A backdoor Roth? It's
Pause for a second. D, don't he look like Richard when we first met Richard?
Look it up. There's nothing, I can tell you this. There's nothing in the code, in the tax code that says section so-and-so, backdoor Roth. There's nothing.
Right.
Basically, with Roth IRA contribution, two kinds of Roths. Roth contributions, the annual limits, and Roth conversions, the big money. Roth conversions, where you convert an IRA to a Roth, there's no income limits. You don't even have to have earned income. Anybody could convert their IRA to a Roth. So that's not what we're talking about. But if you want to make annual contributions to your Roth, there are income limitations, and they're very high. But still, some people are over those limits, and I have the limits in front of me. For example, for 2024, although people are might still be making at this point their 2023, but just to give a frame of reference, the 24 amount for married joint, like I said, it's very high for 2024. If your income is over $240,000, you cannot make a Roth IRA contribution, not conversion. And if you're single, it's $161,000, just as a frame of reference. So if you're over those limits and you have earned income, a W-2, a job, self-employment income, you do not qualify for making a Roth IRA contribution. But there are no such limits and it's weird, there are no such income limits for making a traditional, not Roth, a traditional IRA contribution. Now, the minute I say this, people will say, oh, yes, there are income limitations. Only if you're active in a company plan and want to deduct that traditional IRA contributions. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about opting for a non-deductible traditional IRA contribution where you receive.
Are y'all keeping up? Does this make sense? All right, let's get back to it.
A deduction. And then converting those funds, because there's no income limit for traditional IRA contributions and non-deductible IRA contributions. So whatever your income is, if you have income, you still have to qualify by having earned income. You can contribute to a traditional non-deductible IRA and then convert those funds to a Roth IRA. So they end up the same place back in the Roth IRA, but they go in as a conversion, not a contribution.
Okay, so if I go on my investment provider's website, I'm not going to see a button that says backdoor Roth IRA. I need to actually take these two steps where
I don't think that would ever pass compliance on anything. Could you imagine Fidelity who knows what the future might be, but I've never seen a button like that.
Right. So I'm funding my traditional IRA and then I'm converting at some later date to a Roth. The question is, Ed, and I know this has been a little bit of a squishy one where there have been some differences of opinion. How long to wait between those two steps? Can you weigh in on that?
It's a gray area. There's no answer. Here's my answer. Because originally, years ago, when this first started, some of the accountants said, oh, that's a step transaction. You can't do it in one step because you got to a place where you shouldn't have been. And I don't think anybody really cares about that anymore. But here's what I do. Rather to separate the two transactions. That's the cleanest way, that you know it showed up as an IRA, non-deductible IRA contribution in your IRA, and then converted to a Roth rather than doing it in one step. So here's my practical advice. If you're going to make the non-deductible contribution, make it and wait till the next month. So, and this again, just my own practice. No, this is not a requirement, just a practical good advice, I think, item. Wait till it shows up on your statement for 1 month as a traditional IRA contribution. Because if you go in and out, who knows how it's going to show up on the statement. And then once you can produce a month-end statement that had a contribution to a traditional IRA, then convert the next month. That's it. And this way you have the transactions in 2 separate months and you can show them on both monthly statements.
Okay. I want to discuss the tax impact because many people know that conversions oftentimes do lead to some sort of a tax bill. Can you talk about the tax impact?
All right, so I'm gonna answer the question. So, and you said, how far into my tech journey did you begin transition into wealth building? Did you have debt prior? Of course, I had debt prior. So one of the big things, like I said before, I talked about it wasn't about my wealth building. It was more about my keeping my taxes low. So when I moved to Florida and they started hitting me with tax bills for $10,000, $15,000, I was like, oh hell no. I need to get some way to cover those taxes. And so the easiest way for me to cover those taxes was by buying a home. Right. So I end up buying a home and I was like, okay, I could use the home, my 401k as an option. I didn't have an option of an HSA at the time. I only had flexible spending account was an option. So I put in with my HSA, with my 401k, and then I put in with um my 401k and buying the home, right? But prior to that, I was already investing in stocks, right? So then the more money I start making, the more I start asking about, because I always had tax implications in my mind, like, oh, I don't want to get taxed. I don't want to get taxed. What do I need to do? Oh, okay. Well, now I need to start looking at this from a portfolio standpoint. What does a wealth portfolio start? What does that look like? How do I build that out? So I started building out like, okay, yeah, you understand stocks. Yeah, you understand options. Yeah, you understand um tax loss harvesting. But what are some other options, right? REITs. How can you leverage your IRA? How can you leverage your 401k and your IRA? How can you leverage doing a backdoor Roth? How can you leverage your trust? How can you leverage your nonprofit? How can you take all these things and put this together in a portfolio where you can utilize these things when you need them to be? Now, the other part of that portfolio is buying a business, right? Like I've always the two things that are under my belt to do is either three things: open up my car wash, or buy a car wash and change it to what I want it to be, um laundromat, and maybe some type of event space, right? And just buy land. Those are like my five things, right? Those are my five things. Um, when it comes down to um what that looks like, it That is where I'm like, okay, for me, this is just me talking for my own self. I never wanted to be 65 and say I bought my first sports car, or 65 and I buy my first Porsche. I didn't want to do that. I just didn't want to do that. I just think I don't know what I'm gonna be like at 65. I have no clue what I'm gonna be like at 65. But I don't think at 65 I want to go wham wham zoom zoom around the corner. I just don't think that. I don't know. So I might, right? I might, but I don't see that. I think at 65, I'll probably be sitting in the Blanche Devereaux. So that's my thoughts. I don't know. And y'all like, what is the Blanche Devereaux? Uh, 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 no, no. This my thoughts. Hold on one second. Oh yeah, right here. I'll show you what the Blanche Devereaux. This is what I consider the Blanche, or D call it the Blanche Devereaux. It's a Bentley um GT. It's a 2016. So all the depreciation is gone out of it. It's got 26,000 miles on it. Peanut butter insides, black top, convertible. It's heavy. Boy, that thing heavy. But yeah, that's the Blanche Devereaux. I mean, it could go a lot of ways. It could I mean, you could be in a lot of things if you want to. Depends on you. Depends on how you see yourself. You could be in this GT3. You could be in the Bentayga, which I'm not a fan of. I mean, it depends on how you see yourself at that time, that age. Just my thoughts. Just my thoughts. Mm, it could be an Aston Martin. Which one though? The Vantage, the Vanquish. Which one? Uh, the hybrid. I think they got a hybrid they came out with. Um, and you say it boggles my mind. People rather get on here and indulge in dating and gossip when they're doing the Lord's work. Hey man, I'm just out here hoping that people want to, be engaged in growing wealth and having a strategy, and what are the options to those strategies, what are the options when you get in a job to make more money, what does that look like. um that's it. And you say my holding company will be formed by the end of May, and I've been by. I'm assuming been back with the tech entrepreneur bug, been bit by the entrepreneur bug. I've been in the lab for the last couple of weeks. I definitely appreciate the knowledge transfer. You're welcome. It's SaaS from scratch with no white label. I'm building out the database and the data ingestion aspect. I'll need a front end guy, gal that's just one leg and a monster. Yep. All right, so I know it's ended up going backwards here. So let's look. We were right here. So the tax implications of it, and then I think they got it broken down into backdoor Roth IRA strategies, and then mega backdoor Roth IRA. So we're gonna finish this whole video. I think this video is a great. I didn't look at all of the videos, so I'm watching it with you in real time, and then we'll go and start digging into things and so forth. We probably won't get to everything that I want to talk about today. I have a whole lot of stuff to talk about, but I want to get this off first. All right, so let's go. Let's finish this off. Oh, my bad. Let me start it right here, and then let me put my sound back on. All right, let's go. What happened? Oh, you can't hear? Uh-oh. All right. Let me go back to my other one. It's this one. All right, let's go.
Of doing these backdoor Roth IRA contributions?
Yeah, the tax impact is overrated, but you're right. That question comes up all the time. Well, won't there be tax? Well, it could be. It depends on how many of other IRA funds you have, because when you convert, you have to take into account all of your other IRAs. And so a lot of them may be already taxable. You use what they call a pro rata formula. So just to give you a simple idea of it, let's say you have $100,000 in the total of all your IRAs. In other words, you can't just convert, and this gets to that issue too. People say, well, can't I just convert this? I'll put it in a separate traditional, non-deductible traditional IRA in a secret undisclosed location, separate from everything, okay? Nobody will see it. And then I just convert that and pay no tax. You can't do that if you have other IRAs. Under the tax law, all your IRAs, including SEP and simple IRAs, are considered one IRA. So let's say the total of all your IRAs is 100,000, just to make an easy example. And there was basis or other non-deductible after-tax money of 10,000, just to make an easy example in there. So 90,000 was pre-tax. So if you converted the whole 100,000, you'd pay tax on 90 and tax-free 10. That's your percentage. So let's say you made a contribution for 2024 and the maximum for 2024 is 7,000. Unless you're 50 or over, you can add another 1,000 catch-up contribution. So 8,000. So let's say you're 50 or over, you did 8,000 to a traditional non-deductible IRA. And then you convert the 8,000 to a Roth. Now you might think, well, there's no tax. Well, if you had that percentage that I just talked about, 90% of it would be taxable, 10% tax-free. But again, you're not talking about big dollars here, because the most it could be is for the annual contribution limit. We're not talking about a tax, and that's why people get overwhelmed. Well, I pay hundreds of thousands of taxes. No, it's only to the limit to 7,000 or 8,000. So even if all of it is taxable, it would have been taxable anyway at some point. So I think it's an overrated problem, but people should be aware of it, because some people are told that it's going to be tax-free. That would only be the case if you had no other IRAs.
Okay, that's helpful, Ed. One workaround I sometimes see posited for people in this situation who do have substantial rollover IRA assets is to roll in those funds into a 401k, and that way they're excluded from this pro rata calculation that you just walked us through. Does that strategy make sense to you?
It can, but it's a lot of maneuvering to save the tax on only, like I said, the 7,000, for example. And what you're talking about is, I call it a reverse rollover. Going back, because most rollovers are 401k to an IRA. This would be take your IRA and roll it back. Let's say you have a company plan, a 401k, and they accept rollovers in. Most do, but they don't have to. It's optional. So let's say they accept rollovers in. The good part about that is, as you said, it's an exception to the pro rata rule. The only funds that can be rolled over to a company plan are pre-tax funds. So if you rolled everything over in my 100,000 example, only 90,000, the taxable amount, would be eligible to be rolled over. That would what we call isolate the basis. You'd be left with only after-tax funds in your IRA, and then you could convert those funds tax-free. But it's a lot of maneuvering. And then the funds that you move back to the 401k now, they're under the regime, the rules of the 401k. You don't have the control you had because there could be more restrictions. So
and here's another thing too that y'all got to be careful with too. When you're rolling over these funds and buying into these mutual funds, y'all need to look at these fees. All right. Y'all need to look at the fees in and out. If you don't know, ask. If you ain't sure, ask. Share screen. Click through it. Be like, look, I want this to go into this. It says is this, and I'm going to pay this. Is that right? And if they don't know, tell them get somebody on the phone that do know. This is what the IRS said. This ain't what you what it do. What's supposed to be doing here? Right? Ask questions. Don't be like, they hit me with the $20,000 tax thing. I ain't know it was gonna be like that. Yes, you did. The IRS don't care nothing about what you didn't know. They just want to know when you're gonna pay that $20,000.
It's a little much just to accomplish that, but yes, it can be done.
Okay. I want to also touch on what's called the mega backdoor Roth IRA, and I'm hoping you can talk about who
That's
should
from
consider
a company
that
plan where you can actually load up on the after-tax money in a 401k, let's say, in a separate 401k after-tax account, and convert just that to your Roth IRA and pay no tax. Yes, it can be done. You can bank lots of big money, but for most people, it doesn't work due to, especially in big companies. Maybe if you're a smaller company and you have fewer employees, because you have to satisfy discrimination rules and testing rules. And the people that tend to want to do it are people at the high income, the high income people at the company. The big executives want to do that, but they may not be able. When you take, I'm giving you the Reader's Digest version of the compensation tests. And it may be that they don't qualify because not enough of lower income employees are doing it. It's how many people are doing it. And remember, you have to have the disposable income to do it. A lot of the lower paid employees can't do it, so they don't. And that only leaves the higher paid people, so they fail the discrimination or the compensation tests.
Okay. And in any case, it sounds like, maxing out the 401k up until the basic limits, that should be job one for most employees. Okay.
Yeah, to get the matching and so forth. But the Roth, the backdoor Roth is still alive, and it's a great technique for lots of people. I'll tell you one they miss. I found this every tax season. You have somebody that wants to do that. Let's say, especially a lot of our viewers, you could have a married couple where one spouse is working and the other one's already retired. You can do the backdoor Roth for the non-working spouse as long as you have enough income. Most people miss out on that. So, for example, using the 2024 amounts, which are 7,000 and 1,000 or 8,000, you could put away for 2024. I know people will right now be working on their 2023, but just to give you an example, you could double that even if the non-working spouse has no earnings, as long as there's enough earnings that you've made, and you could double that and put 16,000 away for both spouses. And to me, that's a freebie. You're just taking from one pocket taxable money and putting it in tax-free for both spouses. Many people don't realize that they have that ability.
Yeah.
So somebody asked in the chat, what is a mega backdoor Roth IRA? So a mega backdoor Roth IRA contribution for 2024 is $46,000, up from $43,500 in 2023 if your employer makes no 401k contributions on your behalf. If your employer does make matching contributions for 401k contributions, then you have to subtract that amount. Okay, you said what is it? Still don't tell you what it is. Let's go. Let's see what Motley Food says. Let's see if they got a good explanation. All right, high earners are prohibited from making Roth contributions, right? Soft limits, we know that. We can skip that part. Therefore, a backdoor IRA offers a workaround earners may contribute to non-deductible traditional IRA and then convert it to a Roth IRA. So I have a Roth and I have an IRA. So I'm doing some backdoor Roth right now, a backdoor Roth IRA contribution right now. And I also contribute to an IRA and my HSA and my 401k and the ands, right? The ands, building the portfolio, building out the portfolio. I should probably make a diagram of the portfolio and what I consider the foundation. I have that triangle, but I mean a pie chart of a foundation. All right, so a mega backdoor Roth IRA uses the same conversion technique, but could significantly lower or eliminate the tax liability on the conversion. All right. Here's a checklist to determine if a mega backdoor Roth IRA is possible for you. You earn more than 161,000 in your filing year, status as single or head of household in 2024. All right. For married couples, it'll be 240 in 2024. You max out your 401k contributions. The pre-tax limits are 23,000. The limits increased from 22,500. This is optional, but you max out your annual non-deductible traditional IRA. So you're going to put that 7,000 in there, right? 8,000 if you are 50 and older. And this is also optional. You can afford to make an additional after-tax contribution over and above the annual limit 401k limit. The limits are 23,000 and 20. Oh, why you do that? 24,000. What is that? Must be that thing there. Okay, something on here. Your employer's retirement plan allows for in-service distributions, a fancy term for withdrawal or these after-tax contributions. This is also an option if you plan to leave a job in the future and plan to make a rollover to a Roth IRA. So, how to create a mega backdoor Roth IRA contribution? Let's pause for a second. Let me see who's been paying attention. What is the most that the employer and the employee can contribute to a 401k in 2024? What is the most you can contribute from the employee and the employer contributing together? What is the most? Y'all should know that. I talk about it all the time. Nope. It's 69,000. 69,000. So between you, me, myself, and the employer, us together can contribute 69,000 to my 401k in 1 year. Right? So that's why I always go to here and just say you had an employer. You say you stay with them for 5 years. You contribute that 69,000, right? Between you and the employer, let's say that's I don't know 5,700 a month, and let's say you stay there 5 years. Let's say you get a rate of return about 6, 8, 10, somewhere in there, right? And you calculate that annually. So in 5 years in your 401k, you could have between Roth and traditional 500,000. Now, let me be clear on this. This 69,000 that goes into your 401k, you could literally do let your employer do the 60,000 and you do 9,000 in your Roth, right? So nine times 5 is 45,000, give or take. Let's round up and say 50,000. So you could have 50,000 sitting on the Roth side, and then you could have another 450,000 sitting on the traditional side, right? So you got 50,000 that you are just like, hey, I could do something now. Even though that 450 is there, there's nothing stopping you from converting from the traditional to the Roth, but you're going to create a tax event. So you need to figure out whether you can roll over something to another account, or you can do it in the same account, but don't take my advice. Go seek someone out, because you're gonna trigger a taxable event, but you want to bring the taxes down as much as you can, right? So again, later or now, you're gonna have to pay the pipe. All right. So back to the mega. Is this it? No, that's the HSA. Let's close that. And let's close this. All right. So mega. All right. So to invoke the powers of the mega backdoor, first consider maxing out your other retirement investments. Your second, contribute to blah blah blah. Next, start making after tax 401k contributions. Once you're ready to get in touch with your 401k provider to make make an in-service distribution of your after-tax contributions to your Roth IRA. So it sounds like when I read this, once you're ready, get in touch with your 401k provider to make an in-service distribution of your after-tax contributions to your Roth IRA. So it sounds like in your Roth 401k, you have your traditional side and your Roth side. You're going to contact your provider and say, hey, on my Roth side of my 401k, move that over to my Roth IRA. Move that over to my Roth IRA. Now, here's what I don't know, and this is what I got to ask, because I don't know, is once you move that money over from the Roth side of your 401k to your Roth IRA, can you still contribute? That's what I don't know. Does it count against your contribution? Remember, we can do both traditional and Roth, which would be 23,000. But when I move that money over, can I still contribute, or am I done? I think you're still done, but I don't know. All right, so let's go. Now, the mega backdoor Roth IRA contribution limit, as with all retirement savings, the amount you can contribute to your mega backdoor Roth IRA is capped each year. Calculating what you can contribute depends on your 401k contribution limits and whether your employer offers a matching contribution on your deposits. Here's how to calculate your mega backdoor Roth IRA contribution. For 2024, the total 401k contributions pre-tax after tax. Pre-tax is your traditional, after tax is your Roth. Employer matching contributions and any other non-elected employer contributions are capped at 69,000. That's why I brought it up. But if you are 50 and older, that limit goes up to 76,000. Right? It goes up to 76,000. So let's go back. Let's go back. Let's play the numbers game again. Not there. here. So now we're at 76,500 to say. And let's say you're 50 and you're going to retire at 62. Let's give yourself 12 years. Let's go on and bump this up to 6,000. Just give or take there. 12 years here. Sorry. 12 years there. And let's do an interest of 8. All right. Now let's calculate that. So in 12 years, you could be almost at 1.5 million, right? I mean, but you could be at almost like between 1.3 on if it's at 6%, and if you get more 10% than you do 8, you'll be at 1.7. So you could retire at in 12 years at 62. But let's see you hit 50. Let's do it. Let's add 15. Let's add 3 more years onto that and calculate that. You'll be at 2.2 million. But again, that's between Roth and traditional, but also, I mean, Roth and pre-tax and after-tax. But let's also remember, you still have your HSA over there, right? That you could be at 100,000. You still have your investment properties, your brokerage account, and so forth, right? So in theory, you could have a wealth portfolio in 15 years if played right, if invested right. You could be 3 to 5 million in 15 years, give or take. Now, this is only because I went with the 76,000 on that, right? So let's go back. Here. All right, so subtract the 23,000 pre-tax you make. Stop. So subtract, I don't know, something right here. Yeah, something on the screen. I don't know. I think it may be the way I blew it up and it keeps rolling over it. So let me read it from this here. This is annoying. All right. Subtract 23,000 pre-tax contribution. Pre-tax contribution from your annual 401k limit from 2024. All right. So that 23,000 from I'm assuming the 69 is what we're going with here. That gives you 46,000. And it says the resulting maximum backdoor Roth IRA contribution for 2024 is 46,000. All right. It says if your employer does not make matching 401k contributions, if your employer does make 401k matching, so subtract that as my word. For example, if you make 200,000 per year and your employer does a 3% match, subtract the additional 6,000 and leaving a maximum backdoor Roth IRA limit of 40,000. The mega backdoor Roth IRA taxes. With a normal backdoor Roth IRA, you owe income taxes on the amount of money you converted to a Roth IRA to the extent that your traditional IRA holdings are initially deductible. Similarly, the mega backdoor Roth IRA, your after-tax contributions are not taxable. The only investment earnings on the after-tax contributions are taxable at the current income tax rate at the time of withdrawal for the deposit to your Roth IRA. There are ways to avoid taxes, though. If you make frequent withdrawals of after-tax money, or you leave your contributions in a money market fund, and I talked about this money market fund before, the earnings should be minimal. Also, in your investments, don't yield any return over a given period of time, or have a tough stretch and loss. There are no applicable taxes. This can be tricky. Should I use a mega backdoor Roth IRA? You need to find out from your employer, even if it's possible. They may not allow it. So you're going to have to do your due diligence and ask those questions, right? It says, but if you meet the income and savings standards, a mega backdoor Roth IRA is a great vehicle for diversifying your retirement income, right? So you need to find out if it's possible with your employer. All right. So mega backdoor Roth IRA example. All right. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see what they say here. And if they got an example. All right. So the mega backdoor Roth IRA happens when an employee maximizes their after-tax deferral amount, then converts those dollars within their plan to add to their annual deferrals, as described in more in detail below. When the conversion is done, as soon as administratively possible, the employee effectively excludes the growth of the extra tax dollars for taxations as well. For 2023, the mega is 66, but we know it's 69. 69, I think it was. The maximum mega backdoor Roth IRA amount can be contributed is 66,000. It's 69 right now. All right. To use the mega backdoor Roth strategy, clients need to know how big an after-tax contribution they can make, as noted. And then this is where I get into you all saying you need to seek a CPA. You need to also talk to the people over the actual 401k fund. You want to have a conversation with them. Most of the time, the people that work at HR don't even know. So don't waste your time. They have no clue. You need to sit down and come up with someone to talk about the tax strategies you can use and why to do a mega backdoor Roth IRA. Right? You need to find out because sometimes you don't make enough money to do that. Right? And that's really what it comes down to. And I don't know if you've seen these things out here for maximizing your savings, right? Look right here. Here's another one. I like to find examples. So let's look and see. All right, single individuals who make over more than 140,000 in married couples. This is an old one because we're up to 161 and anything. And this is an old one. All right, individuals with high incomes are usually not allowed to use the Roth IRA, but a mega backdoor Roth conversion strategy is one way these individuals can contribute to up to 40,000, and we know it's higher than that, to a Roth IRA, get the tax benefits on the growth of these monies, and then withdraw the funds in retirement. Right? We're trying to maximize our savings, and we're trying to maximize our growth. Right? I'm gonna do another show on this one. I'm gonna come up with an example and show you how you can utilize this. Because I don't think you all probably have never seen it utilized before, but I'll show you how to utilize it. I'll save this one for next week. I know we're going over our 2 hours. Hold on before we go. Let me make sure it's nothing important I want to get out today. Let me double verify because I got a lot of content. Let's go over here. Here's all my content for today. And I only got on the top two. All right. So let me look and see. I wanted to talk about data center REITs. I'll talk about space and stuff on Monday. This is one of the ones I wanted to talk about right here. Blackstone, that's one. But here, I don't know why that's going to Blackstone. This one is how to research stocks. How to research stocks. It's a whole video on how to research stocks. And this is on Charles Schwab. And in this, underneath here, it says how to tell if a stock is bad or good. And related stuff. So I wanted to do this one. So let's do this. We'll get out of here. It's only 8 minutes long.
So you got a hot stock tip from a coworker and they sound convincing. What should you do next? The short answer is do your homework. As astute as your coworker may be, it's important to conduct due diligence on any investment before you put your hard-earned money at risk. Due diligence, or DD, is all about research, making sure you understand how a company operates so you can decide whether it's a good investment. There are many aspects to due diligence. One part could include fundamental analysis because it delves into a company's ability to make money. At its core, it's the process of analyzing a company's financial statements and studying other trends and data. That can help you determine whether a stock is fairly valued, undervalued, or overvalued by the market. Fundamental analysis is a large discipline as well, but you don't have to do it all by yourself.
Nope.
You could determine how much you're going to do and what you want to leave to the experts. There are many parts to due diligence, and in this video, we'll discuss 4 core ones: earnings, capital structure, management, and expectations. To get started, you need to know where to get the right information.
Hold on, let me go back so y'all can get an idea of that right there. Right. All right, I'm gonna play it again. So earnings, capital structure, management,
and expectations. To get started, you need
all right. Earnings. We'll go again.
Structure, management, and expectation.
That's it right there. So earnings, capital structure, management, and expectations. When you're researching stocks, this is why I tell y'all to get your Charles Schwab or Fidelity or whatever, so you can go look and see who's and then a lot of this stuff is public information. How many of y'all vote when you get in the mail? Do y'all vote? Do y'all attend the earnings calls? Has anybody ever attended the earnings calls? You should.
To get started, you need to know where to get the right information. Publicly traded companies are required by the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, to report financial information to the public in quarterly reports called 10-Qs and annual reports known as 10-Ks. Despite the name, it's not a race, but instead a document filled with hundreds of pages of detailed financial information. It can feel like a marathon to read, but there are tools to help you analyze them if you know where to begin. Some of the most important financial information for a business shows up in what's known as an income statement. There, you can see how much money or revenue is left over after accounting for a company's expenses like paying employees and utility bills. The end amount is known as net income, profit, or earnings, and is a crucial part of understanding a company's value. This is because the stock market is...
And listen, when y'all do interviews and y'all go on these companies and you interview with these companies, you should be looking at this. Y'all should be looking at their 10Ks, their 10Qs. You need to be looking to see what they're getting ready to do. Y'all need to see what their plans are, where they're going. And it'll give you a great insight whether or not you want to work for the company, what area you may want to be in, what team you may want to be on that's gonna get the funding, have some visibility, what what type of work they're doing and going after, you want to be, if you want to be on the cutting edge of a company, that's how you should be looking at them. All right, let's go.
Is where people come to buy and sell future earnings of a company. A common rule of thumb is that earnings and revenues should be growing quarter over quarter and year over year. But there's more you can do with that information, like compare how fast earnings are growing or determine how successful a company is at making a profit. But that would mean a lot of number crunching. The crunching happens by taking data from these statements to calculate financial ratios. These ratios are standardized measurements that can help you analyze how well a company has performed and what its future might look like. Thankfully, the work has been done for you, and you can get many of these tools and ratios for free in a more palatable way from most brokerages, like on the research tab on schwab.com. One example of a ratio is net profit margin, which compares a company's revenue or the total sales before expenses to net income, the money it has left over after all the expenses are accounted for. Net profit margin is represented as a percentage, and a company with high margins is usually able to manage its expenses. This could mean it's good at turning a profit. Profit margins, like other ratios, are great for determining if a company's growing compared to previous quarters and years. They're also good for comparing the company to its peers. Many investors identify top-tier companies by comparing ratios within an industry group. You can use the price to earnings ratio to see how much you're paying for a company's earnings and whether the stock is over or undervalued. It compares the price of a share of a company's stock to the company's earnings per share. If a stock is trading at $20 and its earnings per share are $1, then the stock has a PE ratio of 20. Some investors like to focus on companies with a lower ratio, believing it's a better value. Of course, there's other ways to examine revenue and earnings, but another core area of due diligence is a company's capital structure. It deals with how the business is funded. Funding is done in a few ways, including selling equity by issuing stock shares or borrowing money in the form of things like bonds, mortgages, and other debt. If a company borrows money or incurs debt to make new products or otherwise expand, it can affect earnings. Debts have to be repaid, so they're essentially a claim on a company's future earnings.
Emphasis.
A company with a good capital structure generally keeps its debt and other liabilities in check, while growing equity by retaining earnings that can be reinvested into the company. The debt to equity ratio is a good way to analyze how burdened a company might be by debt. A high ratio that is also higher than the company's peers could be a sign that the company has too much debt, which could be a drag on future earnings. However, debt levels vary from industry to industry, so peer comparisons are an important part of this analysis. I've talked about analyzing the books, but what about the people keeping the books? Management effectiveness analysis focuses on the ability of the management team to run the company, and it's one of the few soft data points that can be helpful when researching an investment. Successful management can seem abstract, but there's actually another ratio that can help grade how well management does at turning shareholder money into profits. It's called the return on equity ratio, and in this case, the higher the ratio, the better. It's calculated by dividing the company's net income by the average shareholder's equity. If a company has a higher number than its peers, investors might perceive that the managers are good at making money. It's not all about the numbers, though. You can also find commentary directly from a company's management team on the company's investor relations website, in the 10Qs, 10Ks, and through analyst reports. Those statements can provide insights into what's on the minds of the people in charge, such as product promotions, growth expectations, or even potential dividends. Companies are also required to disclose any present risks that they face, which may be an important factor in your investment decision. Risks.
So in this report, right? I mean, in this video, he circled and highlighted, and I've shown you this. We were just watching the video for Morningstar, but Morningstar is one of those ones that go over and give an analysis of a stock. So they actually have a YouTube channel that you can go and watch and so forth. But if you have a Charles Schwab account, and even Fidelity, you will see they'll give a rating whether it's a buy, a hold, or it's undervalued, overvalued. I've pulled up stocks. I've shown y'all that from a stock perspective. So what I'll do one of these days, probably next week, probably I'll do it next week. We'll talk about the mega backdoor Roth IRA. But what are you investing in these IRAs? What are you investing in these 401ks? Where are you parking your money? You can utilize the tools within there. They'll tell you if you're aggressive or moderately aggressive. But then what do you know? Like what is it returning? What's in that mutual fund that they're invested in, right? What is a mutual fund? I went over that. What is a mutual fund? Why do you care? Right? Why do you care? Right? So let's finish this video off.
Can include lawsuits that could affect future earnings or other trouble like concerns that the company will struggle to market to certain customers. That's a good reminder about the importance of diversifying the types of stocks you invest in. Investing in companies from several sectors and industry groups that don't usually rise or fall at the same time can help manage risk. While earnings growth, capital structure, and management are all important parts of conducting due diligence, much of what's being analyzed is in the past. Investors are most often concerned with the future prospects of a company. This is where the expertise of Wall Street analysts is helpful. Banks and research firms around the world pay analysts to study many public companies. They publish frequent reports about their views, including what are known as forward earnings estimates that forecast what they think each company will earn for the upcoming quarter or year. They're educated guesses, but heavily researched ones that analysts make using their professional projections and models. Larger companies tend to attract more analysts, and the reports can be found through most brokerages, including Schwab. Analyst estimates tend to be pretty big news when companies report earnings every 3 months. A company beating or falling short of estimates often result in big jumps or drops in the stock price. However, outside of earnings announcements, positive adjustments to an analyst's estimates can be an indication the company may be doing better than expected. Negative estimate adjustments could be a bad sign for the company. Analyst estimates for the future growth of earnings can help investors calculate the intrinsic value or fair market value of a company. Anyone can calculate intrinsic value, but it's complicated. One method requires you to calculate earnings estimates for a company over a period of, say, 5 or 10 years, then discount those estimates based on how likely it is to happen. Not only is the discounted future cash flows model complex, but it requires a few educated assumptions. So having analysts to rely on can be a big relief. However, if you're relying on someone else, even an analyst, make sure you understand their assumptions because they may have a different economic outlook, investing time frame, or bias on the industry than you. While a hot stock tip is exciting, without doing some due diligence, you could get burned. When you know what you're looking for and where to find it, it's a lot less overwhelming. Remember, the goal of due diligence isn't to make sure you know everything about a company. Instead, it's to help you evaluate the pros and cons so you can decide whether it belongs in your portfolio.
All right. I want to make sure y'all got this out. We can go dive off into this another time. But I want to make sure that you got like how to research a stock, right? How to look up a stock. What does that actually mean? Why are we actually how are you making your determination whether the stock is good or bad, right? I know everybody's all up in arms about Nvidia, and you should be watching Broadcom. You should be watching Broadcom. I don't know if y'all are watching Broadcom, but you should be. Let me go here. Let's look. Broadcom, ABGO. So remember they were talking about the ratings and so forth and so on, the reports. They got it classified as a B. You're like, Tameika, what does that mean? Here's what it looked like over the past 5 years. It's up 325%, 326% if you want to round up. But they also have Schwab's equity rating report here. And if you scroll down, they have the Morning Star right here, right? They have Morningstar. So here's Morningstar report right here. So let's look at Schwab's report, and then we'll go look at Morningstar. All right. So this is what Schwab is saying right now. Is outperform B. Schwab is a quantitative measure of blah 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 equity rating blah blah blah, right? And they got it outperform as a buy. They have it as a buy. I've been saying that. I told D earlier last Sunday. I was like, buy you some Broadcom, because Broadcom has been increasing. I think they're on the next target for on the in the realm of semiconductors. You can go and find a semiconductor mutual fund. There's a semiconductor mutual fund out there. I think it has been returning 26%. See, semiconductor mutual fund returning 26%. I have to find it. I think it's in my email that it's returning 26%. I've been watching it. All right. So again, they have it as a buy. They go into why they have the as a buy and so forth. Morningstar, CFR, the whole nine. Now, here's the earning per share. Remember they talked about in the video the earnings per share, the revenue, and the annual earnings forecast. Like, what is it predicted to be? They're thinking it's gonna grow, mean forecast of $57. The next 5 years, they're thinking it's going to grow at 14.4%. Get in now. Again, we're talking long-term strategy. Buy now, DCA your way in, right? Dollar cost average. The stock itself is $1,300. So you may not have $1,300 to buy one share. Typically, we want to buy 100 shares. Typically we want to buy 100 shares. So we may not be able to buy 100 shares. So what do? We dollar cost average our way in. Buy $10 a share, buy $10 worth, buy $50 worth, buy $30 worth or whatnot. All right, so that's Broadcom from Charles Schwab's mindset. Let's look at what Morningstar is saying. Here's the Morningstar report. Here's how Morningstar reviews it. All right. See, Morningstar over here is saying overvalued, undervalued here. They walk in, they talk about AI Investor Day reinforces our firm belief in growth and durable competitive position. This came out March 20th of 2024. Right. They think its fair value estimate is at about 1,000. So they thinking that it may be overestimate. Right. Business and strategy outlook. They break that down. And then here's how the Morningstar looks at this particular investment. Right. It's how they look at it. And then they also compare Marvel Technology, Qualcomm, and Skyworks. Right. They're doing a comparison across the board. Right. And you can go into these different accounts like Fidelity and all of them and look and say, okay, well, where do these actually lie? Right. Remember, we talk about growth stocks, income producing stocks, the whole nine. So you can look at these things and say, okay, well, how diversified you want your portfolio to be. Right. That's what you want to look at. So you can go through and read them. I suggest you read them and start learning just the lingo, the language. What does it mean when someone says something? You can get a good out and make you a dictionary, right? Make you a glossary of terms, as well. It says the same key main, the same way you are before you get money, it's the same way when you come in a lot of cash. I never met a sweet person with cash. 100K ain't shit with inflation. I say the same thing, but people think 100K is a whole lot. I've been saying 100K is not much for the past 5 years, but you know who am I? We don't deal with real data, y'all. The only ones I see dealing with real data and facts besides Boyce Watkins. Yep. And I tried to deal with real data in real time. I try to show you how I think, how I look up stuff, how I go about. Let's cross reference this with something else. Like, okay, well, so what? Charles Squad said something else. Well, what does Morningstar say? And then literally go through these reports and say, okay, well, who's doing what are they, and keep in mind, you don't have to invest just in Broadcom. You can go find a semiconductor ETF. You can go find a semiconductor mutual fund, and then look at who, like for the mutual funds, you got to look at. Remember, mutual funds plan to beat the plan. The goal is to beat the stock market, not right alongside it, right? You may want to try to beat. Remember, there are fees to get in and out of these things, and so you have to be like, okay, well, how I want to play that, right? What that look like, right? And you may not even want to be in any other stocks. You might be like, what's the options on this one, right? Here's the option chain on here, right? Here's the option chain on to get in. Maybe you want to do an option play for a year. Maybe you want to do an option play for 60 days. Again, what's the option play is if I have 100 shares of these, then I can do my covered calls, my covered puts. But if I don't, then I'm doing naked calls and naked puts, right? So you got to figure out where you want to be. Now, if this is too high for you at 1342 and you multiply that by 100, you got to figure that out, right? Where you want to be at. So, where does this mega backdoor Roth IRA and uh and so forth and so on come into play? It's when you want to possibly, not financial advice, you may possibly want to play options in your IRA. You might. I don't know. You might. We'll talk about some of this stuff another time. But look, I'm gonna just pull this up so you can see I'm not crazy. The most popular option trading strategy for Roth IRAs, which is why that mega backdoor Roth IRA conversation comes up, is selling covered calls on shares already owned. So you can take your money doesn't just have to sit there in your Roth IRA and just be investing. You could have some covered calls where you bought 100 shares of Coca-Cola, 100 shares of whatever, and these options are relatively low risk and can be used to generate additional incomes for premiums received for selling the options. The added income can typically be 1% to 2% a month. Just another way where you can use it to generate income while it's just sitting there, right? So again, there's a strategy that goes along with this. And this is just, I've talked about several different ones, but this is just one way where you can do the Roth and the mega backdoor and then use the covered call, again, covered calls of or shares already owned, because you got the money that's sitting there. You don't have to take your physical money. You use your money that's sitting there in your Roth to go. Now, is it risky? Of course there's some risk. Of course there's some risk. But again, it's just a strategy. This is just one way to do a strategy. And Smart Asset has a breakdown of this, how you can do trading options in your Roth IRA and so forth to generate some income, right? Generate some income in your retirement while it's sitting in your IRA, right? While you're sitting in your IRA. I think D can give the browser Slack link. D can get it. You plan to do a covered call on your Amazon RSU that vests on. Yeah, yep, yep. Well, I hope y'all had fun today. I hope you learned something. You learned about a lot. Backdoor, mega backdoor, how to research a stock, how to read. Well, I didn't show you how to read them, but they kind of walked you through in that video how to read them. Right, Aaron, you welcome. The other thing I want to leave off with is we had some wins this week. We celebrated Leaf. I did not get a chance to celebrate MB and Heather. Congratulations on getting Heather your open shift, your first open shift. And congratulations, MB. You stayed true. I would love to probably on Wednesdays meet up, talk through your interview process. I know you said you started out, you did your studies and then you put it out there and you got the job. I just love to hear, or maybe you put it in the chat. It's either way. How coming to the meetup on Wednesdays, and just overall, just Women in Linux have helped you with the process of the interview process, or helped you with the process of going through. I would love to uh hear that conversation. Because I don't, again, I just know what has worked for me, and I share with you what has worked for me. I share with you what I look for in interviews when I'm interviewing people, and what I think is important, what can come off as a negative or a positive with people. But again, that's my perspective, right? But I can spot somebody who don't want to work a mile away. I can spot that. You mentioned your Linux hands-on study sessions, and they were shocked. They normally are. I tell you, I don't know. I stand by this. It has worked for me. Getting your RHCSA, using Linux as your foundation, and then building up, whether you're going into security, pen testing, cloud security, whether you're going into compliance, whether you're going into uh, OpenShift, OpenStack, Ansible, whatever, has, to me, just levels the playing field. It gets you going. Worst case scenario, you get your security plus, you go into GovTech, and you make $100,000 just being a Linux administrator, which is pretty much a DevSecOps engineer. Really, they start rotating that because you start learning Kubernetes and Ansible and GitOps and so forth. But again, that's my thought process. And going from there. Oh, shout out to Russ as well too. Russ got a position. I forgot about you, Russ. He got a position. So, I didn't create this channel for the big wins. I created the channel for the wins, right? Wins are wins. Whether you got a certificate, whether um you got a job or not, I want you to get the 200K. Like I say, don't nobody love you, Tupac does, but um again, I want to see you win and be on the side where we can sit in the room and be like, okay, Tameika, you said, okay, I got to the 200K. Now what I'm supposed to do? Well, you're supposed to keep breathing. That's first. Second, you need to start, and that's why I talk about the foundational now. Once you have all your buckets and your wealth portfolio set up, the more money you make, you're just gonna be a sniper. You're gonna be like 10,000 over there, 5,000 over there, 2,000 over there, 40,000 over there. Got a bonus. Should buy real estate or land with that. I ain't interested in managing. I'm gonna go buy a REIT in that. I'm gonna go over here and go do this. Yes. Oh, I'll be a part of this venture fund. What do you need? 10,000 for me to be in? Oh, Cool. Yeah, I'm already an accredited investor. Cool. I'm gonna be an accredited investor. So it's just one of them things. After you look up, you'll see money. You'll be just like, oh, this money just coming back to me. Like, oh yeah, cool. I got money coming back to me. I got money that's growing. I'm just. It's just on autopilot at that point. And so the things that you go out and buy it doesn't come, you don't worry about it because you're like, okay, I spent 2,000, and this is my rule of thumb. If I spend 2,000, I need to work extra to make up the money that I spent. So that way, whenever I get paid, I'm just gonna invest back or pay that bill off or whatever the case may be. That's just my rule of thumb, right? You say you found me in January 2024, passed my AZ in February, applied all in March, interview all of April, going through three rounds of interviews and receive my offer this week in May and start May 6th. That's it. You followed the plan. I tell you the plan, you follow the plan, you in. Now we just got to keep adding to your skill set. We keep adding to your money. We're going to keep adding to your investing. We're going to keep adding to your growth. You'll be, what I'm saying, if you do it right, you could be a millionaire, a W-2 millionaire in 10 years. A lot of people don't want to talk about it. Strategic in which you apply, strategic in which where you invest, and strategic in how you do things. That's it. I'm not. I make it simple, right? If you do a millionaire in 15, just think if you're 25 and you be a millionaire by the time you're 40, right? Some people like, oh, I don't care about that. I want to be a millionaire in the next 3 years. So I got a plan. I'm gonna do a YouTube channel, or I'm gonna start a business, or I'm gonna go do this, and that's all great, cool, fine, do that. But if you just steady flow on your W-2 side, let that be your tax relief. Let that be your thing. And then on the 1099 side, you can do whatever you want. You could go flex your muscles and chops over there wherever you want. I typically like to stay in the lane of, if I know get ops, if I know all this other stuff, I'm gonna stay in that lane in my 1099 because I don't want to have to learn something extra because I don't have a lot of time to work with. I don't have a lot of time. You said, how's the tax bill when your dividends start REIT heavy, when it just lets you reinvest, you're not taxed until you sell, right? Correct. I just reinvest. Flatten out. You're welcome. You're welcome. But I just know what has worked. I can only show you what has worked. Anything else that I discover, I'm like, let me test it out first, and then I'll introduce it. Then I'll say, okay, but I have to test it first because it just may not be for everybody. I'll let you know if it is or not, and then we'll go from there, right? But the goal on this show is to make as many millionaires as possible. Now, whether you become a millionaire doing it 1099, overemployment, W-2, contracting, buying businesses, getting government contracts, doing business development, it's all on who you want to be. I can only show you the avenues that actually work to help you get there. That's it. Put you in the place where people are already doing it, and then you gotta put in some work. You gonna have to, as Dean say, judge it up. You gonna have to judge it up, and go from there. Well, congratulations, MB. Congratulations, Heather. Congratulations, Russ. Congratulations on all who have come to the meetup that I might have missed, and you started your journey. But those are the ones that stand out to me right now. I'm sorry if I missed you, but I'm glad you all are getting jobs, and people are surprised that you know Linux, because most of the time they are. And then most of the time they're surprised that you can maneuver on the command line and write a bash script or write a Python script. You understand DevSecOps and you understand Agile. Because why do you understand Agile? Because I beat it in your head. You understand sprints. You understand the Fibonacci sequence. You understand how to maneuver when you get in there, how to maneuver in an interview. I talk about all this in the meetup. I've even talked about it here on the shows. But again, utilize those skills. You add your own flavor and whatnot. Again, I'm trying to get you to be trained assassins. That's it. All right. Congratulations to everybody. I catch y'all on the flip. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Go back, D. Wait a minute. We do have some giveaways. We're gonna do it with the earners. But we got one more. I gotta do a giveaway this week. I don't have one up here, but we do have a book. We do have a book giveaway. I posted in the community channel. We got a giveaway for earners. Shout out to the new earners as well too. You know. And okay, I'm done, D. I am done now. I'm out.